Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Before we start guys, I want to say I'm sorry for the lack of updates and videos within the past week. I've had some family come over for the past week and a half essentially, and I simply was not able to find any time that I could make some videos. But now they are gone and my schedule has definitely freed up a whole lot, so you guys can expect to see quite a few videos on a weekly basis once again. So again, really sorry about that, but I hope you guys will enjoy this video, especially since I think this is quite an affordable deck, at least for the most part, just because the main attacker of our deck, which happens to be the Venusaur EX, is pretty much earned through the versus ladder ranking system. So just by playing a whole lot of versus games, you guys will be able to get a couple of free Venusaur EXs. So I felt like it was nice that we take a look at a deck surrounding Venusaur EX. So Venusaur EX has two attacks, Poison Powder and the Jungle Hammer attack. Ideally, we'd like to focus on using the Jungle Hammer attack because we have made a deck revolving around the Venusaur EX repeatedly getting healed for a whole ton of HP. Of course, in certain instances, Poison Powder can be another very solid attack, especially if there happens to be a Verbank City gym at play, for example, and we can definitely take advantage of that additional poison damage. However, of course, Jungle Hammer is going to be the main attack that we will be making use of with the Venusaur EX. So Venusaur EX heals itself by 30 damage whenever it does make use of that Jungle Hammer attack. And then we're also going to have some superiors with the Royal Heal ability, allowing us to heal for 10 damage from each of our Pokemon in between turns. So if we manage to bring out a total of 3 copies of the superior, that is 60 damage that we are able to heal, of course, in between the opponent's turn and then in between our turn as well. And of course, that additional 30 damage through the usage of the Jungle Hammer attack. So if we don't really see our opponent running a deck that has a lot of those big one-hit knockout type Pokemon, they're going to have a very difficult time dealing with our deck. Now, we're also running a total of 3 copies of the Heart Charm. This is going to provide some additional insulation to those Venusaur EXs, make life a little bit more difficult for the opponent. I mean that Venusaur EX is essentially going to have 200 HP as opposed to 180 HP instead. So Heart Charm really goes a long way in this deck, so we will be running a total of 3 copies of it. An alternative attacker that we have in our deck is going to be the Seismitoad EX. Now, Seismitoad EX is mainly as an anti-fire deck counter, just because fire decks would of course absolutely ravage through our grass type Pokemon. All the opponent's fire type Pokemon would need to be able to hit for us at least 100 damage, and they'd be able to repeatedly get those big one-hit knockouts on any of our Pokemon. So Seismitoad EX is a very effective counter to those fire type decks, and Seismitoad EX can also be quite nice just because if we manage to latch on the Heart Charm to it, and of course we provided a lot of that healing through the usage of the Superior's Royal Heal, that Seismitoad EX can quickly start to be quite a menacing Pokemon as well. Even though it would only be making use of its relatively weak Quaking Punch attack, which only hits for 30 damage whenever we do make use of it. So Seismitoad EX is another very nice Pokemon. We are running a total of 2 copies of him in our deck, and the very last Pokemon in our deck is going to be a total of 2 copies of the Virizion EX with the Verdant Wind ability. This will prevent each of our Pokemon from being inflicted by any sorts of special conditions, of course provided that they have some grass energy cards latched on to them. We can also make use of the Emerald Slash attack just because that Venusaur EX is a bit of a bulky Pokemon, can be a little bit difficult for us to really get it going, so Virizion EX can absolutely help us out with that as well. So we will be running a total of 2 copies of the Virizion EX in our deck as well. Now, some additional healing cards that we have in our deck, guys. We have a single copy of the Pokemon Center Lady, which will allow us to heal for 60 damage from any of our Pokemon, so that's kind of nice. Also allowing us to remove all special conditions from one of our Pokemon as well. So Pokemon Center Lady is definitely a worthwhile card to include in this type of deck. And of course, we're running a total of 2 copies of the Herbal Energy. Now, it has the restriction that it can only be attached to grass type Pokemon. However, whenever we do attach the Herbal Energy to one of our grass type Pokemon, we're able to heal 30 damage from one of those Pokemon. So again, this is going to make life very difficult for the opponent. So now let's go and discuss some of the item cards that we are running in our deck. Since we are running an evolution line, we will be running a total of 2 copies of the Rare Candy just to be able to speed up the rate at which we can bring out those superiors. We're also running a single copy of the Evosoda Again, just another very useful card to allow us to bring out those evolution type Pokemon, and of course a single copy of the Wally supporter card as well. So as you guys can see, we've dedicated quite a bit of deck space just to try and bring out those superiors, just to emphasize how important of Pokemon they are in our respective decks. So yeah, so as you guys can see, I mean, that's quite a few cards. You know, we've dedicated a whole ton of deck space. We're also going to be running the Dowsing Machine as our ace-spec card. Not really sure if this is the way to go, but I feel like we have a lot of useful item and supporter cards that we would ideally like to be able to reuse. Alternatively, it could be scrapped out and you guys can run the Computer Surge instead. Or another option is to run the Gold Potion ace-spec card as well. I mean, it allows us to heal for 90 damage off of one of our Pokemon, and of course, since our deck is heavily revolved around healing our Pokemon, we can actually see that Gold Potion being quite a handy card. But in our case, guys, I'm going to stick with the Dowsing Machine. I feel like this is the card that I personally feel is going to be the most useful. However, I haven't really tested this deck, so if you guys disagree with me, absolutely feel free to scrap it out for some other e-spec cards if you would prefer. We are running a total of 2 copies of Switch cards in our deck, guys. One of them is the Switch, the other one is going to be the Escape Rope. I'm going to be going a little bit quickly through the remainder of our cards. However, I will briefly be discussing the Silent Lab Stadium card. This is mainly for us to be able to take care of Sigilifs and Suicune, just because we don't really have any Pokemon that can really effectively deal with them. I mean, we could technically bring out those superiors and they could absolutely take care of the Suicune in a single attack. Sigilif, it could absolutely take care of it as well, but ideally we'd like to simply stick with that Venusaur EX as our main attacker, and of course in certain instances those Seismitoad EXs. Silent Lab does have the downside though that it will negate the abilities of that Verzian EX as well, so we do have to be a little bit careful, especially if our opponent is running a deck which inflicts a whole ton of status conditions. But I still feel like it's a very worthwhile card. I mean, the battle, I had used the Silent Lab in a battle where the opponent was running those Sigilifs, and of course it's just nice because the Venusaur EX can knock it out in a single attack, whereas it would require that superior at least 2 attacks to be able to knock out a Sigilif. Anyways, the remainder of our cards, guys, I'm going to be going through relatively quickly. So we are running a single Sterling Megaphone. That's mainly for us to deal with Garbodor. Zerasic as well sort of serves the same purpose. We are running a total of 4 copies of the Ultra Balls to allow us to grab the Pokemon that we need. 3 VS Seekers to reuse any of our supporter type cards. A total of 4 Ands, 1 Colress, and 4 Professor Birch's observations for some draw support. I'm briefly going to come back to the Professor Birch's observations as to the reason as to why I decided to include it as opposed to the Professor Juniper. We're running a total of 2 copies of the Lysander to lure out any of the opponent's bench Pokemon, and a total of 12 energy cards, 8 of them being grass energies, 2 of them being double colors energies, and 2 of them being the herbal energies. Sorry, so getting back to the Professor Birch's observations, I decided that it would be a very nice card to include just because those superiors are so crucial and so important to our deck that we can't really afford to be discarding them. Alternatively, you guys could run some Professor Junipers and simply run some Sacred Ashes in the deck as well. But in our case, I wanted to play a little bit more so on the safe side, so I decided to stick with the Professor Birch's observations as opposed to the Professor Juniper instead. So anyways, guys, with that, we're going to go and find ourselves an opponent, really hoping that this deck is able to perform quite well. I mean, I had played a single battle with it, and I was able to absolutely overwhelm the opponent. But again, this deck has not been heavily tested, so it's probably going to need a couple of tweaks here and there. And also, again, I do want to emphasize the fact that it's very affordable, especially if you guys play the versus ranked games often, just because you can easily unlock those Venusaur EXs. Alright, so it looks like we have found ourselves an opponent, and we're going to be facing some Psychic and Colorless type deck. Really, the only decks that are going to give us a whole lot of trouble are those decks that can perform those big one-hit knockouts. So Night March decks are pretty troubling for us to deal with, which is potentially what we're facing. No, it looks like we're probably going to be facing some sort of a starter opponent. I'm thinking, I don't think our opponent is going to be all that experienced. Looks like we're going to start off with the Snivy as our active Pokemon. Let's go and draw into an additional card. Awesome, looks like we're going to get the Verzian EX onto our bench. But the Banette that the opponent is running could give us a bit of trouble. Could potentially prevent those Snivies from being able to evolve into those superiors. But depending on how this battle goes, I may just find ourselves another opponent, especially if we just blaze through the fight. Alright, so it looks like the opponent is going to start off by attaching a Psychic Energy card onto that Golett. I'm going to go and attach a Grass Energy card onto that Venusaur EX. I mean, I could definitely use the Ultra Ball to bring out an additional Snivy, which is I think what I'm gonna do. So let's go and use it to get rid of the Professor Birch's Observation, and I think I'm gonna go and get rid of the Rare Candy as well. Let's go and look for an additional Snivy, which we will lay down onto the bench. I'm gonna go and, you know what, let's hold off on the Heart Charm for now. Let's go and use that N to get us 6 new cards in our hand and lay down an additional Venusaur EX. Okay, so with that, guys, I'm gonna go and end the turn. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot more that I can do. I'm probably gonna have to use the Professor Birch's Observations one more time during our next turn. Looks like we're gonna see Woobat make its appearance. Professor's Letter, allowing the opponent to look for 2 Psychic Energy cards. That Golett will finally be able to attack us for 10 damage. Luckily for us, though, that Snivy will definitely be able to survive with 50 HP remaining. And awesome, looks like we have the Escape Rope, so let's go and use it and bring out that Venusaur EX as our active Pokemon. I mean, I don't really think we're going to be using the Venusaur EX all that much, so again I'm going to hold off on the Heart Charm, and then let's go and use that Professor Birch's Observation. Hope that we at least get some energy cards. Awesome, looks like we're going to flip the heads and a Seismitoad EX as well. Alright, let's go and attach that double colorless energy onto that Venusaur EX. I'm going to go and attach a Heart Charm onto that Seismitoad EX as well. Let's go and use that Emerald Slash attack, knocking out the opponent's Woobat, and then attaching 2 Grass Energy cards onto that Seismitoad EX and drawing onto our very first prize card. Hopefully we can bring out our superiors, guys. I mean, that healing is going to go a very long way, and it's just going to make life very, very difficult for the opponents. I mean, I'd also love to be able to draw onto one of our Venusaur EXs as well. Alright, so I mean, I could use the Ultra Ball, and yeah, you know what, let's go and use that. So let's go and get rid of the N in our hand and the Starling Megaphone as well. I'm gonna go and bring out a Servine for the time being. Hopefully we can bring out those superiors. Let's go and use that Professor Birch's Observations, and awesome, looks like we're gonna get another head, so we're getting quite lucky with those flips. Let's go and bring out that Venusaur EX as well, which is again ideally the main attacker of our deck. Let's make use of that Emerald Slash attack to speed up the rate of energy attachments to our bench Pokemon. Hopefully we can finally start attacking with that Venusaur EX starting from the next turn. Probably gonna make use of the, well, I mean, yeah, I'm probably gonna make use of the Wally to finally bring out one of those superiors, and I'm gonna hold off on the switch at least until we get some additional energy cards. Okay, looks like the opponent is going to quit, so let's go and find ourselves another opponent. Hopefully this time around the battle lasts a little bit longer, and I think I'm still a little bit short from unlocking those 5 booster packs, getting quite close to getting the full reward, so hoping that the next set of rewards are also quite nice. Really loving these versus ladder rewards. Alright, so looks like this time around the opponent is going to be able to start first, or at least choose who she would like to be able to start first. Hopefully it's us, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And it looks like we're seeing the Charizard sleeve that the opponent has, and in our case we have the Venusaur sleeve, and of course we have the Venusaur EX. So alright, let's go and start off by bringing out that Venusaur EX. Looks like we're going to see a Trubbish, and it looks like it's going to be the Tool Drop Trubbish. Okay, so this can be a very interesting battle. And okay, we're going to see another quit on the opponent's end. Not really sure what that is all about. Maybe they didn't have a good hand. But I'm not complaining. You know, I've just earned myself 5 booster packs. So again, I'm going to go and find ourselves another opponent, guys. And let's go and quickly get rid of this. Definitely we'll be opening those booster packs a little bit later, seeing what I am able to get, and once again finding ourselves an additional opponent. Definitely would not count these as victories. I mean, we really haven't seen those Venusaur EXs in action just yet. Again, we're seeing another different type of deck. Looks like it's going to be a fighting, water, and colorless type deck. Not really sure what the opponent has in store for us. I mean, yeah, you know, I can't off the top of my head make a prediction as to what I think the opponent is going to be running. Looks like the opponent is going to flip the tails, and that will allow us to choose who is going to be able to start off first. Jurassic Heart Charm. Okay, I was thinking it may have been a Wailord EX, but seeing those fighting energies, Powdon. Okay, yeah, so this could be a bit of a difficult battle for us to deal with. We may just be forced to make use of those superiors as a main attacker. So let's go and start off by bringing out the Venusaur EX as our active Pokemon, guys, and then laying down a Venusaur EX and a Snivy onto our bench. Let's go and draw onto some additional cards as well. Bringing out that Seismitoad EX could definitely help us out. And okay, so this should be an interesting battle. Let's go and bring out an additional Snivy, attach a Grass Energy card onto that Venusaur EX, and then end the turn. And just want to say briefly thank you to the opponent and wish them good luck. So we do see the Seismitoad EX as the opponent's active Pokemon, but we are running grass type Pokemon, so we're just going to be able to absolutely ravage those Seismitoad EXs. So this should be a very interesting sort of battle. I could make use of that Professor Birch's observations to get some new cards, but I think instead I'd like to use the Zerasic and get rid of that double colors energy from the opponent's Seismitoad EX during our next turn. Okay, looks like we're going to see a Crushing Hammer, really hoping that the opponent flips the tails. But again, we do have that water resistance, so that Seismitoad EX will only be able to hit us for a mere 10 damage, unless of course we do see the Muscle Band getting latched onto that Seismitoad EX. So Crushing Hammer, and it is going to be a head. So unfortunately that Venusaur EX no longer has any energy cards attached to it. Luckily though, we still have 2 grass energy cards attached, in our hand. So we'll definitely be able to make use of those, and I'll absolutely be using that Zerasic to get rid of the double colors energy attached to the opponent's Seismitoad EX. So let's go and attach that grass energy card and then make use of the Zerasic. And with that, I'm unfortunately going to have to end the turn, really hoping that we can make use of that Emerald Slash attack. I mean, by that point, the opponent's Seismitoad EX will simply not be able to attack at a rate quickly enough to be able to get rid of all of, he wouldn't be able to make use of enough hammers to just be able to get rid of all those grass energy cards. So we're seeing the Hippowdon. Those are going to be some very troubling Pokemon for us to be able to deal with, but again, once we have those superiors, and of course the opponent does have the grass weakness, we'll be able to absolutely take care of those Hippowdons relatively easily. So the opponent is running some Silent Labs as well. That could be troubling just because the opponent could make use of the Hypnotoxic lasers and things like that. And okay, so it looks like the opponent can't do a whole lot right now. So let's go and attach an additional grass energy card onto that Venusaur EX. I think I'm going to go and make use of the N just to ensure that we draw 6 cards. Awesome, looks like we have a rare candy, so let's go and bring out a Superior. I'm going to go and attach a Heart Charm onto the Venusaur EX as well, and then let's go and attack with the Emerald Slash attack, hitting that Seismitoad EX for 100 damage, and then, wow, a single grass energy card, my goodness. Looks like we have quite a few of our grass energy cards prized this time around, so let's go and attach a grass energy card onto that Venusaur EX, and hopefully knock out the opponent's Seismitoad EX during our next turn. We could potentially be seeing that Hippowdon make its appearance. Again, could be a bit of a difficult Pokemon for us to deal with. Luckily for us though, those Superiors can be quite powerful with respects to taking care of them, and I definitely don't see those Hippowdons as performing a one-hit knockout unless of course we do see a lot of those fighting energy cards and things like that. So not exactly the best type that our opponent is running. I mean, just because his Seismitoad EX and his Hippowdons are especially susceptible to our grass Pokemon's attacks, and I'm just a little bit bummed out that we do have so many of our grass energy cards prized in this instance, but that's okay. So we're gonna see the Corvina. The opponent is gonna be able to grab onto one of those Landorus's, and let's see what is going to be the item card that the opponent's going to be able to draw into. Okay, so it looks like it is going to be the VS Seeker. Possibly the opponent is going to use it to look for the Professor Sycamore. Just a guess, not really sure if that is indeed going to be the case, but I think at this point I am going to start loading up that Superior. I think we're going to see those Hippowdons make their appearance relatively soon. So let's go and attach a Grass Energy card onto that Superior, and then let's go and knock out that Seismitoad EX, allowing us to draw onto our very first 2 prize cards. I'm thinking at least one of them is going to be a Grass Energy. Yeah, so 1 Grass Energy and another Heart Charm. Could potentially attach it to our Superior as well. Alright, so the Hippowdon is finally coming out into play. Will it be able to finally make use of that Resistance Desert? Only if the opponent is able to latch on the double colorless energy onto it. So let's see if that is going to happen. So we're seeing another Hippowdon, the Fighting Stadium VS Seeker. My guess is that we're going to see, yes, so it looks like it is going to be the Sycamore, and the opponent is going to get a fresh new New hand, yeah, so that double colorless energy, the Starling Megaphone getting rid of those hard charms, the Crushing Hammer, the opponent is going to flip a Tails this time around, so we'll absolutely be able to attack with that Superior. I mean, I could use the Escape Rope, but of course that would also force the opponent to switch out their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. I don't really want that. I'd rather be able to attack those Hippowdons. So let's go and retreat that Venusaur EX to bring out that Superior. I'm going to go and attach a Grass Energy card to it. You know what, let's go and attach a Hard Charm to it as well. I think this Superior may actually be the main attacker of our deck this time around. Let's go and use that Leaf Tornado, hitting that Hippowdon for 100 damage, and then I'm going to go and move that Grass Energy card onto our Venusaur EX, and then end the turn. That Venusaur EX is slowly going to get healed up, of course, due to that Royal Heal in between turns. So I think this is definitely going to be our game for the most part, guys. Unfortunately, our opponent just had a massive type disadvantage, and this is precisely what makes Grass-type Pokemon so deadly at this particular instance. So having another Grass Energy card in our hand, I'll definitely be attaching it to the Venusaur EX that we do have in our bench. Looks like the opponent is going to use the Escape Rope. Let's go and bring out the Venusaur EX, guys, and finally start doing a little bit of damage with it. Looks like the opponent is going to bring out their own Landorus, and that is going to be how the opponent ends their turn. Alright, so let's go and attach a Grass Energy card onto that Venusaur EX. I mean, I'd love to be able to bring out another Superior, but I definitely don't want to give up both the VS Seekers in our hand. So you know what, guys, I think I'm going to hold off on making use of the VS Seekers just yet. I'll be making use of that Ultra Ball during our next turn to hopefully bring out an additional Superior. Let's go and use that Poison Powder, hitting our opponent's Landorus for 60 damage and then poisoning it. So we could potentially be seeing a Hippowdon make its appearance. We still have one more switch and another Escape Rope in our deck, so there's a pretty good likelihood that we will be able to draw onto either one of those cards. So those Hippowdons, well, they are very troubling Pokemon, especially for EX type decks to deal with, and it looks like the opponent's going to end our hand anyways, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but that's okay. I'm not really complaining. I think I'm gonna latch on the double colorless energy onto the Seismitoad EX, guys. I mean, I could latch it onto that Venusaur EX, but we're healing for so much damage already in between turns, and none of our opponent's Pokemon are really able to perform those big one-hit knockouts that I'm not particularly worried about making use of the Jungle Hammer attack. So let's go and attach a double colorless energy onto that Seismitoad EX. Let's go and bring out another Venusaur EX. I feel like two Superiors should hopefully be more than enough. Use the Professor Birch's observations, and we are going to flip a Tails, unfortunately, this time around. I think I'm going to hold off on the Starling Megaphone. Let's go and use that Poison Powder, knocking out our opponent's Landorus, and then drawing onto an additional prize card. Looks like that Hippowdon is going to come out as the opponent's active Pokemon. I do have the Lysander in our hand, so I can absolutely use it to lure out one of the opponent's benched Hippowdons. Looks like our Superior is going to be coming out again. We do have the Hard Charm, so that's going to make life a little bit more difficult for the opponent's Hippowdon to be able to deal with our Superior. So don't really think it's going to be a smooth sailing. Only 40 damage, and my goodness, that Superior is just healing for some additional damage once again. Not really sure what I want to make use of this time around. I mean, you know what, let's just go and get rid of the Hippowdon, guys. Let's simply go and attack with the Leaf Tornado, knocking out the opponent's Hippowdon, and I'm not really going to be moving around any of the energy cards, so let's go and draw onto one more prize card. Now, all I really need to do is knock out that Shaman EX or two of our opponent's Pokemon, and then we will be able to win the game. But I feel like if we were running a very heavily EX type of deck, those Hippowdons could have been quite troubling for us to deal with. Looks like we're going to see an N coming out from the opponent's end, and we do have the Herbal Energy and a Colress in our hand as well. So things are not looking so great for the opponent just yet. You know what, our Superior may just be getting knocked out, so I'm going to go and attach a Herbal Energy onto it, and then I'll shuffle around those energy cards. So really am loving the Leaf Tornado attack. Let's go and use that Colress, and awesome, looks like we're able to bring out another one of those Superiors. So let's go and bring him out, and then let's go and use the Leaf Tornado, hitting our opponent's Hippowdon for 120 damage, and then I'm going to go and move a Grass Energy card onto one of our benched Superiors, and that is going to be how we end our turn. So I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised by how well this deck seems to be working. the opponent is going to make use of the Karina. We're going to see another Hippowdon coming out in the opponent's bench. The only unfortunate thing about our deck, guys, is that we don't really have any Pokemon that can hit for those big one-hit knockouts ourselves. I mean, really, the highest amount of damage that we can do with our deck is with the 90 damage from the Venusaur EX's Jungle Hammer, and that's unfortunately not enough to be able to allow us to knock out that Shaman EX for the victory. So Hippowdon really not looking all that menacing right now. I mean, just because we're able to heal for so much damage that the opponent's attacks are pretty much useless, and they unfortunately haven't been able to draw onto a single prize card just yet. So that is a bit unfortunate, and of course the opponent is getting dangerously close to decking out. I would love to have been able to win like that, but looks like the opponent is going to knock themselves out and make use of that Hippowdon second attack. Yeah, so it looks like the opponent has pretty much given up the game. So I'm going to go and tell them GG, because that is going to be the end of the game. So let's go and Lysander out the opponent's Hippopotas. Yeah, not really sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And then let's go and make use of that Leaf Tornado, knocking it out for the victory. And yeah, so that is going to be it. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.